Hey everyone, this is Izzy from Valuart. Some of you may already know me from the Valuart Newsletter. Well, now we have a whole new format where we interview the most sought after artists in the NFT space. Our very first guest this week is Billelis. Billelis is a digital artist based in Edinburgh that has an upcoming drop on Nifty Gateway called The Graveyard. But I'm not going to go into details because right now Billelis is going to tell us all about it. All right. So I'm going to start from the first question. So, of course, with the drop just around the corner, we want to ask what's the essence of this collection and how long it's been in the work for?
It's been in the works for quite a while. I'd say half a year, if not more. Everything I've been creating was for this. But I think the NFT space has been amazing, but I wanted to create a mechanic and a sort of engaging game of death in a sense, but put a meaning behind it because there's been a lot of, call it burns in the past by a lot of elements of the NFT space, but I wanted to create a cohesive concept of sacrifice and renewal, because destroying something is just a one-ended relationship. There's nothing in return, where in the notion of sacrifices through religion and all sorts of elements, there's always, you sacrifice something for something in return. And I wanted to give collectors that were holding these pieces a fun way to engage with what is my biggest drop to date, which is 50 artworks, and 30 of them are one-of-ones. So I wanted to add my take and make a statement of what I feel a real art sacrifice should be.
Lovely. In fact, we wanted to ask also if you could dive deeper into the sacrifice system and how it works. I was actually in the Discord and I was seeing some users talk about it. And there were some questions around whether they would have to randomly sacrifice one of your pieces or if they could choose which one to sacrifice. I also saw one that said, I can also sacrifice one, but there's actually one work of Billelis. That's my first NFT.
Yeah.
So that's really hard for me to sacrifice. So
I think
how does it work?
That's the point of it as well, is no one is forced to do anything they don't want. The system is there if people want to play. If not, it's all good. I will never force anyone to do something. And especially with art, is I value all the artwork, but then I wanted to create this just because out of a sense of renewal into what I do. But the system has 4 different tiers, and each tier is very specific. The first 2 tiers, the tier of death is an open burn edition sacrifice where people are guaranteed to get the piece they enter for. The second tier is first come, first serve. So people will choose what they want, and that's editions of 5 per artwork, but then people have to be very, very fast. So there is an element of freedom in there. And then the higher tiers will be draws, and eligible winners, like people that will win the draw, will get their pieces sacrificed. So nothing gets destroyed without anything in return. And if people don't win, then the artwork won't be destroyed. But then there's some elements in the timings of how every tier works as well, which means even if people go for the highest tier, there'll still be a window after that where people can enter the first tier. But again, it's a game, so people have to decide for themselves how they want to play this. But the rules are there, and the Lord of the Underworld doesn't wait for anyone. So
that's
the rules
true.
are laid out. So I think people will need to strategize how they want to enter this system.
Completely clear. So also, like you also mentioned, right? No prices on the sacrifice.
No, there's no prices. The only, I guess, price you would call it is how many sacrifices are needed, because naturally the rarer and more unique we go near the top, then the higher requirement of a sacrifice will need to be. But as well, the tiers were created over months of studying collector statistics and seeing what people hold and everything. And especially I wanted to create the highest tiers because I've got a lot of collectors that like to complete sets, and it was almost like a further reward if they wanted to destroy stuff. to be able to enter on this tier with things they already had. And then the lower tiers are for people that it doesn't matter if you own 1 or 6, but I wanted to create a system that everyone could play in.
Love it. So it's not like directly tied to the piece that they already have. So the value of that piece. So let's say maybe one is less rare than another, so I can't access immortality or
No, it's
or one
all
to one. It
three.
doesn't depend on that.
All the eligible artworks are treated the same because death doesn't care who you are. So
love it.
That was the point of this system is, and it's up to collectors. The rules are there if they want to play. That's what the system is, and we've seen movement on some of the open editions, and Marble Spoke, which was a collaboration with Greg Mike, because I think maybe people want to destroy them more than they want to do In Memoriam, because In Memoriam, I'd say, was one of my most personal collections, and I'm still very proud to this day of all the art created. But again, I don't have any hard feelings for anyone that wants to sacrifice them. That's why they're included in the system.
Love it. And also a question that I was really curious about is that in a recent tweet, you mentioned that the graveyard has been inspired by a plethora of references from the divine afterlife, with these angels having a significant role. So can you tell us more about the role of these angels?
I think overall the whole graveyard was inspired by the Greek traveler in the underworld of Charon, which is the death on the boat that takes you to the afterlife. But again, with Immortality, that's why the tiers are named in those life forms as well, because I think we feel a lot of people think of it's just life and death, but there's stages in between, and there's potentially stages after. And angels are a sign of divinity and protectors, and also people can ascend to divine elements in the afterlife. And angels as well are very inspiring, as I mean, we're used to them in the beautified sense of just beautiful angelic forms, where in reality they're a combination of a lot of crazy eyeballs and a lot of feathers. But I wanted to create them more in the beauty aesthetic, in the aspect of what I do, because a lot of what I do is surrounded by darkness and death. So I wanted to inject an element of beautification and purity in some of the artworks. So each tier has a decent variety of some of the styles I work with, and some as well. I wanted to keep it fair and have engaging artworks on the lower tiers as well as the higher tiers.
Lovely. And talking about cycles, you know, you mentioned life, death, and all that's in between. You mentioned that also art itself has its very own cycle. As like if art were to be seen as a parallel to human existence, how would you define the life cycle of art?
I mean, I think it's fascinating as well how a lot of art only gets valued when the artist is dead. So that's a big thing we've seen in the art world. Almost like value astronomically goes up. But what if the artwork had a life cycle instead of just the artist? And I think it was paramount to the ethos of what I create, and trying to add an element of the inspirations I have as an artist, trying to create it into the actual system and take a step further instead of just purely visualizing death. So I think the element of sacrifice and destruction, but also giving the opportunity for renewal, is testament to that.
Awesome. And so always like staying on this theme, the artwork's part of the graveyard. We talked about renewal. So once, you know, collectors burn their pieces, you know, they sacrifice them. What's going to be the next life cycle of these works, part of the graveyard collection?
I'd like to keep it as the next life cycle is the living cycle of the artworks, and I want people to get to enjoy them in their collections. I think in the NFT world, there is a very short time span of people holding artwork and appreciating. Is I can't share what future plans are, but this is quite a big project that's taking a lot of time. So I think a slight break will come after this, just to realign and see what will be next to create in the space. But a big thing for me is, after creating this, which is a purely digital project, because in the past I've done digital mixed with physical and stuff. This is going full on digital in a digital art space, and then taking a small step back and focusing again on physicals, and then how the digital and the physical can coexist in the art space. So I think I can't share too much right now, but there's a lot of ideas in the making, and I think a little time of space is needed just to re-inspire and refresh after all this output.
Absolutely. And we definitely can't wait to see, what comes next. And
Thank you.
thank you so much. Are there any other curiosities that you want to share with us in regard to the collection, or?
I think I'm just excited to see how people decide to play on the system and who manages to get what. There's still a few more fine details to tweak, but that's more on a background aspect. No mechanics are changing. The artwork is all ready. I remember finishing the last piece on Monday before everything was announced, and then Twitter broke. Not because of me, but it was divine timing. The trailer dropped, and then Graveyard Twitter got buried. But I think it's just really exciting to create something this big and see how people engage with it, because it's been a while since I did a drop of this scale, but I wanted to take the time. I didn't want to dilute what I was creating in the meantime, because the previous collection was a collector's reward. So then after that, I wanted to take the time and really work into this. But I'm really excited about what you guys have planned because of what we sent over yesterday. So I'm really keen to see that.
Yes, and we'll be revealing that very, very soon. We can't wait as well. And, it's just been the last 2 weeks have been so exciting. So also you, and, the kind of strategy of leaving us some small drops, tweets, and not revealing anything until yesterday was
it
wild.
is
It
a
was
fun
great.
game. Always the lead up to a art collection is fun. The teasing aspect, and one of my favorite things is, aside from the artwork, is creating a package, almost like an experience. That's why I like to work with animators to create the trailers, and had a web team work on the concept website, because I think it's important to explain what the idea and how the system works. And it's a nice way of documenting it for later on, because people can always visit again to see, and people that can't get into the collection, or people that still want to appreciate the artwork, can experience the whole element of it, but then better for people that actually get to collect it and be part of what this project is.
Absolutely. So also that's a very good point, because right now on the long-time collectors, right, loyal collectors can take part in this experience.
Yes.
So that's a very, very important aspect that, it really, really changes the game in perspective.
Yeah, I think it's really important. It's fun to engage as well and get their opinions on these systems as well. I mean, I kept everything pretty secret, so it was fun to see some of my biggest collectors reach out a few hours after the news came out, and then it's really nice to get into a discussion, not just asking how does this work, but into a discussion about future plans and their thoughts on these collections, because their opinion does matter, and it's really important. And obviously couldn't be creating a lot of these things without support from collectors, so it's really fun to be creating again something of this scale.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Billelis.
Thank you
We're
very
so
much.
excited, and we can't wait to see you on August 17th. And right now, we're just a while, we'll also see what we have to reveal.
Amazing.
Also, nerd.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.